Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry, I've had a bit of technical issues this morning, so I can't put this afternoon. I can't put the video on because it's causing delays. So it will be just straight onto the PowerPoint this afternoon. So thank you very much, everybody, for attending today's webinar. In today's webinar, we'll be covering Standard 6, which is all around the complaints and appeals policies and procedures. So it's a nice, easy one today, getting towards the end of the year and wrapping up for the end of the year. This webinar forms part of your continuous improvement process under Standard 2.2, and following the webinar you should hold a quality and compliance meeting and include that you attended this webinar on your minutes and then what you learnt through this webinar. So what are you going to improve? Is there anything that needs to be updated? Is there anything that needs to be implemented? You'll be going through and reviewing all of those. You'll also be identifying whether there's any opportunities for improvement required and identifying if you need to complete an opportunities for improvement form in order to update your policies and procedures. You should also review any of the documentation that we'll be reviewing today, which will be reviewing the complaints and appeals policies and procedure. If you have any questions, please pop them in the chat box and I'll answer them as I go through. As I stated earlier, we will be focusing on complaints and appeals, but if there's any other questions that you have, please hold them off until the end of the session and I'll go through any of your additional questions at the end of today's session. So Standard 6.1 to 6.6 is your complaints and appeals process, and how are you going to manage those complaints for your organisation. So more often than not, what happens with complaints is if you don't have a clear and transparent process for managing complaints, you're going to end up with your complaints going to ASQA. ASQA don't want you having your complaints go to them, and neither do you. It is more important that you ensure that you have all of your policies and procedures in place and that you're implementing them, and that it's clear to the student what their rights and responsibilities are with regards to submitting a complaint and appeal. So it's really important that you ensure that all of your students understand where to submit a complaint. And if you hear that a student has a complaint and they don't want to put it in formal writing, you should ensure that you do put it in formal writing, because more often than not what might happen is it might be that the student has had a discussion with the trainer assessor and may make a complaint but doesn't want to make a formal complaint because they think that they might get into trouble if they do a formal complaint, or it might cause some other issues. But in order for you to ensure that you have a clear and transparent process for how you're managing those complaints, you need to make sure that every single complaint is documented, and that should be documented through a completion of a complaints and appeals form, as well as reviewing those complaints and appeals at your monthly quality and compliance meeting. So it's really important that you are reviewing those complaints and appeals on a regular basis and then identifying what are informal complaints that should be made formal by putting it onto a form. So we'll talk about that a bit further when I go through the documents. So Standard 6 is the RTO needs to ensure that all grievances are dealt with in a timely and fair manner by utilising a mechanism to allow students, staff and employers to submit a complaint through a complaints and appeals process. So in the student handbook and the trainer's handbooks, there is clear instructions on how the student can submit a complaint to the RTO. So there's a policy and procedure on how to complete it. Submit a complaint, how to write it, so complete a complaint and appeal form. What is the process once the form is submitted to the RTO, and what will be your process? And that the complaint and appeal will be acknowledged in writing. So when you receive the complaint back, you'll acknowledge it in writing. and so that can be, and it has to be, it can be an email. So you can send them an email to say, I've received your complaint, and we are processing your complaint through as per the policies and procedures. So it's reviewing the complaint and identifying, well, are there any opportunities for improvement within that complaint? And you need to validate the actual complaint. And there are a range of ways that someone can make a complaint, and we'll go through that. That the complaint will be resolved within 60 calendar days, and if it's not, that you will notify the student if it's not reviewed within 60 calendar days. So within the policies and procedures manual, we make it clear what is a complaint and what is an appeal. So a complaint is where it might be a staff member, a student, it might be an employer, a trainer, it might be industry. There are a range of different people who can submit a complaint to your organisation, and that they should be able to submit a complaint about any discontent that they may have against another person within the organisation or outside of the organisation, or it might be a process that they might want to submit a complaint about. So the policy and procedure is relevant to all grievances in the following areas. So if a student wishes to submit a complaint about another student, the student wishes to raise a complaint against the RTO, so against you. A student wishes to raise a complaint about a third party, so it might be someone outside of the organisation. It could be someone who is delivering one of your units, for example, first aid, and you might be contracting this organisation to deliver your first aid unit as a credit transfer. So they will issue the certificate and you'll do a credit transfer into your RTO. That may be a third party. A third party may also be a workplace employer, so someone that they're undertaking their work placement with. A third party could be, when it comes to cry costs, it could be against an education agent or someone else who is marketing on behalf of the RTO or the CRICOS organisation. It could be that you are an RTO and they want to make a complaint about your marketing, and it might be that marketing is being conducted by an outside organisation. So there are a range of different people who may be third parties outside of the organisation. It could also be that you get a guest speaker in who speaks to your students. So that's another example of a third party. It could be that the RTO staff wish to make a complaint about a third party. So a lot of those different third parties. It could be an RTO staff member may want to make a complaint about someone else within the organisation or about a student, for example. It could be that a staff member wishes to raise a complaint about another staff member or a student. So there's a range of different ways that and people might complain about, or it might be a process. So when wishes to raise a complaint against the RTO, it could be the process within the organisation. It could be that they want to make a complaint about the work placement requirements, or it might be that they want to make a complaint about the policies and procedures. It might be a complaint about the marketing on your website is not accurate with actually what you are delivering. So there's a lot of big ranges of complaints. And as you can see with those ranges of complaints, there could be lots of opportunities for improvement that are identified by other people outside of your organisation. And that's where it's really important that you ensure that everyone knows how to submit a complaint and who to go to submit that complaint, because you want it to come to you. So the way I see a complaint is it's an opportunity for improvement, to improve your practices within your organisation. So it's a really good opportunity for those practices to be improved, and more often than not, because what can happen within your organisation, this is another reason why we recommend that you get external people to come in and do audits of your RTO, is because more often than not, people within your organization become complacent with the process, and they actually don't see any of the issues that are happening within the organization. So it's only when you get outside eyes coming in and having a look at your organization that they actually see things that you wouldn't see because you see it day in, day out within your organization. It's like you get a niggle in your back and it might be a bit sore, and then eventually you just get used to having that pain, and then you forget that you need to go to the doctor, and then one day you end up going to the doctor about something else, and then you go, oh, that's right, I've got a sore back too, and maybe that could be related to what the issues are. So that's where it's really good to get someone else to come in and submit it. So that's an audit, but also with complaints. There's lots of, like, you should be encouraging people to submit feedback. So that could be through an opportunity for improvement, or it could be through a complaints process. And your trainers should be talking to their students about engaging them with regards to submitting any complaints. If there's anything that the students are disgruntled about, they should be encouraging the students to complete a complaints and appeals form so that it goes through this a formal process of getting reviewed by the RTO. So it's something that you should be aware of, is training your staff on how they can submit complaints and appeals, and that will filter down through to your students as well. The biggest thing you do not want is you do not want a complaint to go to ASQA, and that can be from previous trainers as well. I had an audit earlier this year where I went in and I conducted a systems check of a client's organisation, and throughout the audit I discovered that a previous trainer had submitted a complaint to ASQA about the training and assessment, and they didn't come to the RTO. They actually didn't complain at all to the RTO about any of the processes, and it's highly likely that they didn't know how to, or they didn't have that engagement process. The RTO didn't have the engagement process with the trainer to get their feedback. You should be getting regular feedback from your trainers and assessors, and it may not be in a complaint and appeal type of format. It should be, you should also have trainers' reports that they're submitting on a regular basis as well. We have a template in on Unicorn that you can access, which is all about trainers' reports that they can submit once a month as well. So that's aside from this. Anyway, an appeal. An appeal is where the student has the right to appeal an assessment result. So it might be that they disagree with the result that you've given them. So it might be that you've given them a not yet competent, and they believe that they did provide sufficient evidence to deem them competent. So this includes appeals arising in the following areas. So it may be that a student agrees with the result given by their assessor, or the student wishes to have their result reviewed by another assessor. So they don't agree with the result that they've got, and they wish to have, and they have the right to do this, they have the right to ask for another assessor to review their assessment. The student wishes to be reassessed for the same unit. So they've been deemed not yet competent, and they wish to undertake the assessment again. And it may be that you need to have a reassessment fee in that case, where the students may be required to utilise equipment or something like that, or time of the trainer assessor to undertake a reassessment. It could be that the student wishes to change an elective of a unit. So they were not deemed not yet competent in an elective unit, and they've had a number of attempts at that unit, and they've been deemed not yet competent, and they wish to change that elective unit to another elective unit, and they have the right to do that. If they cannot get it, and as an RTO, you should be suggesting that anyway. If they're just not getting a unit, you should suggest as another unit that is within the elective requirements within that training product that you are delivering. Now, it may be that you cannot do that. It might be that you're delivering all core units, or it could be that you are not delivering a full qualification. It might be that you're only delivering single units or a skill set where there isn't any other elective units that they can choose from. But that's where you would respond to them with regards to that request, is that you're not able to give them another elective unit because it doesn't form part of the training product that you're delivering. Student believes that they were discriminated against by the assessor, so that can also turn into a complaint. So they're appealing a result, but they want to be reassessed, but it could be that that's also a complaint against the trainer assessor because they're being discriminated against with their assessment. So standard 6.1 is that the RTO must have a complaints policy in place to manage and respond to allegations involving the conduct of the RTO, its trainers and assessors, or other staff within the organisation. Can also be a third party providing services on the RTO's behalf, its trainers, assessors, or other staff. So it might be a third party, as I stated earlier, that you're hiring maybe another training organisation to deliver a unit that's not what you want to deliver. You've hired a third party to do that, and they might want to make a complaint about the trainer assessor of that other RTO. So that could be another scenario there. It could be that they want to submit a complaint against another learner at the RTO. It could be that they want to submit a complaint that another learner is cheating, or they're copying their work, or they're asking inappropriate questions. It could come down to discrimination, where they feel they're being discriminated against. It could be a range of things against a range of other legislation as well, where they want to complain about someone else within the organisation. So there are a range of different ways different situations where a student may submit a complaint, or it could be a staff member or a trainer or assessor or the third party. So you should be making aware of everybody working within your organisation how to submit that complaint. So the complaints policy, this policy and procedure is relevant to all grievances arising in the following areas. So when you, in the policy and procedure within Unicorn for the Quality and Compliance Manual, it is actually really clear what they are to do if they wish to submit a complaint against another student, or against the RTO, or a third party, or someone else within the organisation. So we're going to have a look at the complaints and appeals form. I'm just going to see how I go with this, because the internet has been a bit slow. So I'll just see how we go with me sharing this document with you. So I'm going to go and share my screen now. So I'm just going to bring up the complaints and appeals form and explain to you how we can, how you use this form within your organisation. And it would be a good idea if you actually got this form out and did a review at it at your next quality and compliance meeting to identify. If you've never had a complaint submitted, it's a really good idea at least once a year to review the form and discuss it at your monthly meeting. And because this month we are talking about complaints and appeals, great opportunity for you to distribute that within your team and remind them of the complaints and appeals form, and that if they do receive informal complaints, anyone within your organisation receives any informal complaints, that they can also complete this complaints and appeals form. So that, sorry, I'm just going to make this wide, so that they understand that they are able to submit a complaint and what the process is for that complaints and appeals form. So on this form, you can see that whoever is making a complaint can put their name in here. So they can state who they are, the date that it was submitted. So we can put today date in there. And they identify who they are. Are they a trainer, assessor, a student, or it might be another staff member, so they could tick that box. And who is the complaint against? So is it against a trainer, a student, an RTO staff member, an employer? It might be about your resources. It might be about your assessment tools, or it might be this one is the actual RTO. So they want to make a complaint about the RTO. And who they submitted the form to. So the student may not write that on there. It may be that the staff member within the RTO needs to submit that, write that in there. So you put in the name and title of whoever you've submitted to. If there's any other parties involved, so it might be they are making a complaint about another student, so they'd put the other student name in here. And then when you actually register it on your register, you'd give it a register number. So we've got a complaints and appeals register also in the documents. So this is where you would fill in this form to state that you've received a complaint. So this is the register of complaints. We'll go back to that after I've gone through the form. Okay, so it states on here, and this is all in line with the policies and procedures. How to use this form is in line with the policies and procedures. So the appeals must be lodged within 7 days of the initial result being determined. So if they were determined not yet competent, they should submit this form within 7 days. So it's really important that your trainers and assessors understand that. So and they should advise the student that they have the right to submit a complaint, not a complaint, an appeal, and appeal their result within 7 days, and that this is the form to do that. So you need to guide your trainers and assessors on how to show the student what to do if they want to submit an appeal. So they've got to submit it within 7 days. And you should refer to the complaints and appeals policy and procedure, which is all in the student handbook. It's also in the Q&C manual. It's also in the trainers and assessors handbook. So this is where you would then put details of the complaint. So if assessment and appeals, have you discussed this matter with your trainer in an attempt to reach a decision? Yes, no. If they said no, you should redirect them back to their trainer to discuss it. If it is because they're making a complaint about the trainer, then you should then continue and manage it as a complaint and appeal of the result. Complainant is given the opportunity to complete a complaints report form with this form if there is not enough room on the form, and that's a pretty basic form. That is, I'll just see if I can bring it up. So that's a very basic form, the complaints form. This is the purpose of this is if they run out of space on the other form. So this is an attachment to the first form, the complaints and appeals form, so they can also fill in one of these to attach. So that's what that means, is that they can complete a complaints report form as well to attach to it. So they can write in here or they can type it depending on how you want them to do it, but you can write in here. You can have this form as an online form too. If you want to put it on your website or on your student portal, you can convert this to an online form. Not a problem at all. It might be that you also have a database where this form can be submitted and it will go straight into the database against the student file, which is a really good way of managing your complaints and appeals to ensure that they're secure as well. So by all means, change this form and add it to an online form if you wanted to, or you can have it as an editable PDF, so where they can only fill in fields within the form online, and they can submit that form directly online. So by all means, if you've got any mechanisms in place where students can submit complaints online, or you can put it on the website, by all means do that. So they've got plenty of room to submit their details about their complaint, and then there's recommended action for improvement. So they should submit the form to RTO manager. Now, if you don't have an RTO manager or there's a different title of the manager, you should change this on your form. So change the form so it actually has the actual name or title, of the person that they should submit this form. And they've got also CEO here and what date it was submitted. So the student or whoever's making a complaint should sign this form and date it, and then from there on it is the office to manage this form. So recommended action required for improvement. So we should submit a written acknowledgement that you've received the complaint within 5 business days of receiving it, and then that should be ticked when you have done that. You should hold an initial meeting, and that may be over the phone or face-to-face, or it might be Skype, but there's an initial meeting that you would hold within 10 business days with the person who made the complaint. So the complaint was raised, initial meeting held to discuss with all parties involved in the complaint in order to find a solution agreeable to all parties. So it could be that you are interviewing a number of people. It could be just the person who submitted the complaint, or it could be about the people that they submitted the complaint against. If a solution is found and remedied, you can then tick this off and continue to the appeals outcome section, which is on the next page. If it's going to take more than 60 calendar days, then you need to refer it to an RTO manager or a nominated person. You may need to refer it to an outside party. It might be that you need to refer them onto outside services. For example, they may require counselling services, or they may need to undertake language literacy and numeracy assessment. It might be that you need to get a third party involved about the complaint, because it might be about anti-discrimination or other legislation that is going to affect the student as well. You can refer it to the National Training Complaints Hotline as well, so that if it's going to be escalated where you cannot resolve the complaint, then you would go to the National Training Complaints Hotline. Now, just letting you know, the National Training Complaints Hotline is the first step before going to ASQA. So if you are referring there, so it might be that you feel you've resolved the complaint, but the student doesn't believe that the complaint's been resolved. So you can then refer them to the National Complaints Hotline. It might be that you need to refer them to another government body, for example, the police department or hospital. It might be that you need to refer them back to the funding body where they've got government funding, because it might be a funding issue and it might be out of your control, the complaint that they've made. Now, not all complaints are going to be complaints that you'll be able to resolve, because it might be that the complaint is about a third party that you do not have control over. So it might be that you need to then refer them to another party outside of the organisation. So the RTO is responsible for acting upon the subject of any complaint and appeal found to be substantiated, and a student will be advised of the outcome of this consultation process within 15 calendar business days of the dispute being lodged. If you are then going to an appeal, it might be that they're going to appeal the result, or you're appealing the complaint, and you're going to put in here what your appeal is going to be with regards to that. So it might be that they're going to undertake another assessment. It might be that they need to be referred to another party. It might be that they just cannot be deemed competent within this unit. So it might be that you're going to refer them to another unit, so another elective or something like that. Feedback from complainants. So once you've resolved the complaint, you should discuss it with the complainant to ensure that they're satisfied with the outcome. If they're not satisfied, there may be further action that is required. It may be that you will never satisfy the client, but it should be that you are making sure that they understand what their rights and responsibilities are, and that you have acted within your rights and responsibilities as an RTO. Matter was dealt with within a reasonable time frame. So this is just your monitoring of how you're managing your complaints, and any other comments that you need to make. It's also you're asking the student this, or the person who's made the complaint, whether they felt that the matter was dealt with within a reasonable time frame. And then your action monitoring. Is there an opportunity for improvement that needs to be completed because it's been identified that there should be an opportunity for improvement? Now, an example of this that I can give is when I had my RTO, I had a whole classroom of students submit a complaint. Now, what had happened was we had moved into bigger premises and we'd gone from 2 training rooms to 5 training rooms. And we went from a capacity of around about 20 students to over 100 students. So we identified that we needed more tables, chairs, we needed more toilets, we needed more kitchen facilities, we needed a breakout room for the students and things like that. But one of the things that came up in this complaint is all of the class had complained that there was not enough toilet paper and that we were running out of toilet paper every day. Now, we were filling it up every day, but the toilet paper was disappearing. And one of the issues that had happened was we thought that people were stealing the toilet paper. So what we did was we identified this as an opportunity for improvement, and we then stapled all of the complaints and appeals behind an opportunity for improvement form, and we actually implemented an opportunity for improvement, which was we ended up installing the big toilet rolls within the toilets, so that way we didn't run out of toilet paper. So that's a very good example of how a complaint can turn into an opportunity for improvement. Actioned at the quality and compliance meeting. So you've reviewed it at the quality and compliance meeting and there's been action or it's been monitored at the Q&C meeting, but at least it's been tabled. Was there a policy and procedure that need to be updated because of the complaint that was submitted? And has it been filed on the complaints register? And has it been cross-referenced in the database with the student file that they had submitted a complaint? So I'll just go back to that complaints register. So this is the complaints register that you'll also find on Unicorn. So you can access this. In this complaints and appeals register, you would then record the complaint. So everything at the top of the form here, you would record that into the spreadsheet. So you would record the date, who was the complainant, who complained, name of the complainant, who complained, so what type of complainant was it, who was it submitted to. So I've actually got here pull down menu as well, so you can actually change these so you know you've got those resources there. A brief description of the complaint, so you don't want a major description, you just want a brief one in here. Who was made responsible for that complaint, the action taken and the date that was completed. So when was that action completed? And then that should be minuted at your monthly meeting. So I have a question. What if other staff disagree with the resulting changes at the Q&C meeting? So that's where you discuss it at the Q&C meeting. It's a really good opportunity for you to review that complaint and appeal. Why do it on your own when you can talk to other people within the organisation? They might have a different view of that complaint. And what action should be taken. And you, of course, there's only going to be, and in our policies and procedures, we've got that the RTO manager has the last say, but they review it with all of the staff members. It might be that you want the CEO to have the last say. So that's up to you who you have, but it is work really well for you if you do discuss it with other people. Sometimes a complaint can be really simple and it's really easy to resolve, and then other ones it can be quite complicated. I had an example of a client that I was working with where they had numerous complaints, verbal complaints from a student, but none of it had been documented onto a form. They'd minuted it at meetings, but they actually hadn't put it onto a form because they'd asked the student to complete the form, but the student refused to complete the form. Now, just because the student refuses to complete the form doesn't mean that you don't complete the form. It can be done by anybody within the organisation. This is where, you know, complainant name is going to be there, the date was submitted. It could be that the form was completed by someone else. So you can say who the form was submitted to, but you could also put on here the other party involved is the person who completed the form because the student refused to complete the form themselves. So I hope that answers your question with regards to if other staff members disagree with the results at the Q&C meeting, but it should be something that you discuss with other team members anyway at your meetings. Okay, so that's those forms. All right. Any questions about the complaints and appeals form? Okay, we haven't got any. Excellent. Okay, so I recommend you download that form and check it out and make sure that you're implementing it throughout your organisation. So the way the complaints and appeals should be managed is once you've received a complaint, so this is in the policy and procedure manual, someone has a complaint or they wish to appeal a result, they should speak to their trainer first or the RTO manager, particularly if it's an appeal, because it might be that they will be given an opportunity for reassessment straight away and they may not need to appeal the result. If your complaint was not resolved by your trainer, you get to complete a complaints and appeals form and then submit that form to the RTO manager who will follow the process to resolve the complaints and appeals. If the RTO manager is unable to resolve the complaint, they can bring in a third party. So the student has the right to bring in a third party if they wish to have support with regards to their complaint. So they could have a job network provider they want to bring in, they might have a counsellor, they might have a family friend that they want to bring in to assist them with the complaint. And then the complaint or appeal is resolved. So that's ideally what the situation would be when managing the complaint. Got another question. What do we do if complainants are unhappy with the decision the RTO makes? Well, you could review the complaint again. So if they, and that's where that is important on the form, that you review the complaint with the complainant, and actually go through feedback from complainant. Are they satisfied with the outcome? If they're not, if they're dissatisfied with the outcome, further action required. So that's on the form. So you should take further action. What is it you need to do? You may not be able to please them at all. They may never be happy. And this complaint that I was talking about, where the student did not want to submit a written complaint, the complaint was never resolved because what the student was complaining about was, I think it was actually they were appealing a result because they believed that they should have got competent, but they had their attendance had fallen below 50%. So they actually didn't get the training required in order to be able to complete the assessment. And what the RTO wanted to do was get them to come back and repeat the course again, so that they actually got the learning, and they weren't going to even charge anything for it. But the student said, no, you should issue me with a certificate. So there are things like that where if their complaint is going to be against everything else, they may not. So if they make a complaint that is against the other, which is against the other clauses that you need to be compliant with, then you cannot make it that you may not be able to resolve it, because it might be that they are the complaint's not going to be resolved because the issue is that they've been non-compliant with other clauses. So it might be that you may not be able to resolve the complaint. Sorry, well, I've just got someone who's saying that they've got technical issues. Did I miss the webinar? So hopefully he's online and he can hear me. Webinar is running now. This webinar is recorded, and you will get access to the recording. Apologies, now we'll watch the upload and catch up. Okay, fine, no worries, thank you. Okay, that's the complaints and appeals. Standard 6.2, the RTO has an appeals policy to manage requests for a review of decisions, including assessment decisions made by the RTO or a third party involving services on the RTO's behalf. So I have explained this, and you will have you just have to have a policy and procedure in place that also includes the appeals policy. So we've done that. So you have the policy and procedure for that. Okay, standard 6.3, the RTO's complaints policy and appeals policy. So within the Q&C manual and the student handbook and the trainer's handbook, we ensure that the policies and procedures ensure the principles of natural justice and procedural fairness are adapted at every stage of the complaint and appeal process. That's where we've got the time frames. So that's what that means. On the form, we've got time frames of when you're going to do things. So written acknowledgement will be within 5 days. Initial meeting will be within 10 days. Further investigation within 60 days. So that's what that natural justice and procedural fairness is about, and that it's clear and transparent to the student. The other one is that your complaints and appeals policy and procedure is publicly available. That means you need to have it on your website. So you need to have, anybody can submit a complaint to your RTO. So you need to have what the process is on how to do that. So you should have a separate page on your website. It can be on, if you don't want to have it out there for everybody, you can have it in your student portal. But it is a really good idea because you don't want outside people who aren't a student of your organisation to make complaints to ASQA either. You want them to make a complaint to you. So you should have a page on your website on how to submit a complaint about your organisation and who to go to. And as I stated earlier, this can be an online form that you can have in place where they can submit the complaint through an online form. The policy and procedure should set out the procedure for making a complaint, so it should be clear and transparent what that is. So that's why we have a flow chart on how to do that. Ensure that the complaints and requests for an appeal are acknowledged in writing and finalised as soon as practical. So that's where we have it on the form that you'll acknowledge within 5 business days, and that can be an email. Provide for review by an appropriate party independent of the RTO and the complainant or appellant at the request of the individual making the complaint or appeal if the process if the processors fail to resolve the complaint or appeal. So the student has the right to an independent third party outside of your organisation to appeal the result. So there is a complaints and appeals tribunal that you can go to. You can also get an outside counsellor. It might be that you might partner with another RTO to do that. It's very rare that that's going to happen, though. It's very, very rare. So it's just where you have to take up the opportunity of identifying, well, who will you engage as a third party? And that third party could be just an independent party that they wish to bring in, the student wishes to bring in. Standard 6.4. So where the RTO considers more than 60 calendar days are required to process and finalise the complaint or appeal, the RTO informs the complainant or appellant in writing, including reasons why more than 60 calendar days are required, and regularly updates the complainant or appellant on the progress of the matter. So as I've got in our little cartoon here, you don't want someone sitting there waiting, and the worst part could be that they actually go to ASQA and complain because your process is taking too long. And that's where ASQA has the right to say, well, you've gone more than 60 calendar days and you haven't let the student know how you're progressing with the complaint. So they can then take up the complaint and investigate it. So you want to make sure that you are keeping them informed of the process. And I would do that in less than 60 days. I would be giving them regular updates on how you're progressing with the complaint, just so that they know that you're taking action. There's nothing worse than not hearing anything from the organisation to whom which you've made a complaint to. They should know what you're doing. So even a weekly phone call just to let them know how you're progressing, or an email just to update them on where you're up to, so that they know that they're at least being heard and that you are reviewing the complaint. Standard 6.5, the RTO securely maintains records of all of their complaints and appeals and their outcomes, and identifies potential causes of complaints and appeals and takes appropriate corrective action to eliminate and mitigate the likelihood of reoccurrence. So securely maintains is pretty easy. So it should be that you have a password secure database in place, and that you have, so that only certain people can access that database and access all of those records. And if you do have paper-based files, that the complaints are stored in a locked filing cabinet that only certain staff members can get access to. So that's how you securely maintain, and that's the policy and procedure. The identifying potential causes of complaints is that whole process that we just went through, that you are monitoring that complaint, that you are reviewing it at your monthly Q&C meeting, that you are putting it into opportunities for improvement if there are if there is anything identified, so that you can eliminate or mitigate the likelihood of reoccurrence. That's definitely an opportunity for improvement that you may take there to ensure that it doesn't happen again. So that whole process of monitoring it at your quality and compliance meeting, completing the complaints and appeals form, keeping the complainant informed of the progress, that's how you are identifying the causes, and also how you're going to mitigate that. Standard 6.6, this is pretty much if you're a volunteer or an employer organisation, you are also required to comply with the complaints and appeals policy and procedure, and that and so that includes people who do not charge fees for their training assessment and does not have a place in place a specific complaints and appeal policy in accordance with 6.1 and 6.2. So it can be that an employer or a volunteer organisation has their own internal complaints and appeals process in place, but they need to make sure that it complies with 6.1 and 6.2. So it can't be just any regular complaint system. It's got to be ensure that it complies with the complaint of the RTO and or an appeal of a result. So they need to incorporate that into their policies and procedures. So if you're not a volunteer or enterprise RTO, you don't need to worry about that. But if you are, you need to ensure, if you want to use your own complaints and appeals policy and procedure within your own organisation, that you incorporate how to submit a complaint against the RTO and how to submit an appeal or result. Okay, that's it for today. It's not a very long one today because it's just we were going through complaints and appeals. So please let me know if you have any questions. Please pop them in the chat box. Please note that Vivacity will be closing over the Christmas period next month. We only got one more month until Christmas, and our last webinar. So our last webinar will be held on Monday, the 3rd of December, 2018. So we'll be closed over the Christmas period. So we close on Friday, the 21st of December, and we'll reopen on Monday, the 7th of January. Now, because of us returning in January, on the 7th, we will be holding the monthly webinar on the 14th of the following week. So we won't be doing it straight up when we get back, because I know there's a few people who will be taking time off over the Christmas break. So the webinar in January will be mid-January, so the 14th of January. We will be launching a new webinar format from next year. So there will be a new platform that will be doing that, and we'll be having an online interactive forum where I'll be delivering online training. So it's not just the webinar. I'm going to have all sorts of interactive forums that will be happening. So there will be polls and questionnaires. And the other great news is that when you don't have to attend the live webinar. It is better that you do attend the live webinar, just letting you know. But at the moment, you can only get a certificate if you attend the live webinar. From next year, you'll be getting issued a certificate just for watching the webinar, because we'll be able to record that you watched it, for how long you watched it, and there will be a poll where you'll be answering questions at the end of the webinar to provide evidence that you have actually attended the webinar and understood the content of the webinar. So lots of exciting things happening next year. So for all of our membership, and that includes everyone on Kickstart as well, we will have a new online platform for our interactive online training. So we're going to be doing a lot more with memberships next year. There's going to be a lot more involved. So as you've heard this year, we've got a whole new range of membership packages that have come out this year. Next year, we've got a whole new platform that we're going to be delivering on. And on this platform, you'll also be able to log in and get access to all of the previous webinars. And I'm going to have a course for you to do. So when you get a new staff member who starts, they'll actually have a process to follow for those webinars. So I'll go watch this webinar first, watch this webinar second. For a trainer assessor, they should watch these webinars. For a compliance person, they should watch these webinars. For admin people, they should watch these webinars. So we're going to have courses for different staff members within your organization as well. So it will start with the webinars, but there will be more interactive training that you'll be getting online as well, where you'll access old webinars, and there will be things that I'll be doing with you online as well. So that's very exciting. We're also reviewing all of the policies, procedures, forms and documentation at the moment, because there's been a lot of changes that have happened with the new audit process. So ASPA have changed quite a lot with the audit process. So the audit process currently is the student journey. We've now reworked the whole Q&C manual, so it's now in the student journey. So we've had that all updated. It's now in the same order, which starts from marketing through to enrollment and recruitment, training and assessment, support services. So it's going through that whole process. And you're going to have documentation that's going to be updated with that as well, because we've got quite a few documents that are getting updated because of the changes that are happening, and we've got a few audits leading up to the end of the year, so there will be some changes happening with those as well. So lots of exciting things happening with membership next year. So keep your eyes peeled. There are a few people who are online today whose membership expires now or next month. So we'll be sending you quotes for the new membership packages where there's more support. So there's a range of membership packages that we have now. We're not just the delivery of the material like the RTO docs and Cricos Docs and the webinars are all also launching the Cricos webinars next year as well, which is also very exciting. So we've got the Cricos webinars commencing, but it will also be any ongoing support. So annual systems check, assessment validation, going to our workshops. We also want to launch more workshops next year as well. That may happen second half of the year. So lots of exciting things. I've got Amanda's asking a question. Is there a way we can network with other RTOs to learn their experiences on the online learning platform? Yes, you will be able to interact with other people. I just have to make sure that we protect privacy and confidentiality on there, on the online platform. So it will be highly likely that they'll only see your first name on the online platform. So it will be up to you whether you want to engage with other people who are also our clients, because we've got over 50 members now. So with the over 50 members, we've got a lot more things that we want to do with these 50 members. So there will be lots of people that you can interact with online with our other members, because there's lots of opportunities with these online webinars where you can network with other people who are also our clients all over Australia. So we've got people everywhere. So thank you very much for attending today. Do you have any suggestions for third parties that our RTOs can use to dispute resolution? I don't have any of those at the moment. Maybe Amanda can help you with that. She can answer that question since she posted that question. I don't know that one. Hi, Angela. I did not receive my certificate for October. John Manson. Okay, thanks, John. I'll let Emma know, because Emma is your a membership coordinator, so she's looking after you. Next month, I'll get Emma online and you can meet Emma, and then Emma can let you know who she is and that you can contact her. So for anything to do with membership whatsoever, you get in contact with Emma. So it's emma@vivacitycoaching.com.au, or you ring the 1300 729 455 number. Emma only works 3 days a week, so it is best if you send an email. She works Mondays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. So you can give her a call during the day. You can give her a call now if you wanted to, John, and she'll get that certificate sent over to you for last month. And you can also, any questions, anything about membership, you can get in contact with Emma and she'll have a chat to you about that. It can also be anything about Unicorn. So if you're having any issues with Unicorn, you can also get in contact with, oh, sorry, I've just realised I've gone private, whereas I should have gone with everybody. Yeah, any questions that you have about Unicorn, you can also contact Emma about that. We also have a new Unicorn that will be happening as well. So we're reworking Unicorn. What we're going to be doing is having this online platform that you'll be accessing instead of Unicorn. So you'll be, I think we'll still call it Unicorn, but it will be this online platform that you'll be using, where you'll be able to access all the webinars and access all of the won't be documentation or documentation. We're not sure yet. We're still working that out. There's still a few things that we're working out with that, but I'll let you know. So I've just popped up in there Emma's email address. I've also popped in the days of the week that she is working, and Amanda has provided to me privately, which she could have done publicly, some places that you can go to for third parties to assist you with complaints and appeals. So if they want to get an external party involved, they can go to those, the community justice centres or Intermediate. So there's some centres that you can go to. So thank you very much for attending today's webinar. Looking forward to catching up with you next month. We'll have more exciting news next month about what's changing and what's coming ahead, because we're just working on it right now. I'm just testing the platform at the moment. Hopefully I might have it ready for the next month, but our launch date is in January. So the 14th of January will be the launch date, and we'll have our new system in place. It'll be very, very exciting. I'll be doing some work on some online training that you'll be able to do there. So very excited. I'm very excited about it. I hope you're very excited about it. We had our annual planning day last week, and we discussed a few more things that we want to bring on board for our membership, because that's a big area of our organisation and how we're working with our clients on membership. And we now include membership as part of our Kickstart package, which is for initial registration. So there's a lot more involved now with our membership packages. Thank you very much, everybody. Oh, Andrew. Thank you, Andrew. Andrew's going to see me. I'm going to be in Adelaide next week. So I'm going to Adelaide to deliver some workshops on RTO compliance and assessment validation. So look forward to catching up with anybody from Adelaide who's interested in doing our workshops. If you are interested in doing our workshops in Adelaide and you haven't registered yet, please get in contact with Emma as well. Emma can assist you with any of the workshop registration. So you can email Emma or give her a call on 1300 729 455. She's there today, so you can give her a call. If you're from Adelaide and you wish to come along to our workshops in Adelaide, please get in contact with her, and I'd love to see you there. Also, we have workshops in Sydney in December. So if you are interested in any workshops in Sydney, we've got CRICOS compliance, RTO compliance, and assessment validation happening in Sydney. If you're interested in any of those, please get in contact with Emma, and Emma can register you for them as well. Thank you very much for attending today, everyone. I look forward to catching up with you next month on the 3rd of December. Have a great month. I look forward to catching up with you. Bye.